Chevy's 292 Inline-6 wasn't just powerful, it was a rule breaker. This engine had the potential to shake up the competition, but before it could make history, it got banned. So, what made it so dangerous that officials had to shut it down? Here is the shocking truth behind its ban. The story of the Chevy 292 Inline-6 is not what you might expect. When people talk about classic American engines, they usually bring up V8s, the loud, powerful beasts that stole the spotlight. But hidden behind all that noise was a six-cylinder engine that could have changed everything. General Motors built it, perfected it, and then quietly pushed it aside. Why? Rebirth. It all started in the early 1960s when Chevrolet needed a fresh start for its six-cylinder engines. The old stove-bolt 6 had been around for decades, but by 1962 it was outdated. It was big, heavy, and simply couldn't compete with newer designs. Chevy engineers went back to the drawing board and created something better. The new six-cylinder engines were smaller, lighter, and much more advanced. They shared design elements with the famous small-block V8, making them tougher and more efficient. One of these new engines was the 292 Inline-6, introduced in 1963. It was different from the rest of the lineup. It had more potential, more strength, and a secret that GM didn't want to talk about: the engine that could have been a star. At first, Chevrolet seemed excited about its new Inline-6 family. The smaller versions, like the 1940 and 230 cubic-inch engines, appeared in passenger cars and became popular for their reliability. But the 292? That one was treated differently. It wasn't given the same attention, the same promotion, or the same opportunities. Instead of placing the 292 in Chevy's cars, GM decided to use it mostly for trucks and industrial vehicles. They claimed it was better suited for work, but the real reason was something else. The 292 was strong enough to challenge the V8s in performance and durability. If they put it in cars, it could steal customers away from their best-selling V8 models. A business decision. General Motors knew how to sell cars, and they knew what made them the most money. The V8 was their golden ticket. It had the power, the reputation, and the marketing behind it. The 292nd, on the other hand, was a quiet competitor. It didn't fit the image GM wanted to push, so they kept it in the background. This wasn't the first time an automaker had made a decision like this. Many great engines have been held back, or even discontinued, because they didn't fit the company's big-picture strategy. For the 292nd, it wasn't about what it could do. It was about what GM wanted people to buy. Hidden from the spotlight? By the late 1960s, the 292 was still alive, but it wasn't getting any closer to the spotlight. It stayed in trucks, working hard, and proving itself every day. It powered delivery vans, farm equipment, and even medium-duty trucks. But the average car buyer never got a chance to experience it. In racing, things were different. Some gearheads saw the potential of the 292 and started using it in drag racing. People like Kay Sissel took the Inline-6 and made it scream on the track, shutting down V8s left and right. But even then, Chevrolet didn't officially support these efforts. The company had already decided where it wanted the 292 to stay, out of the way. The decision was final. As time went on, Chevrolet made it clear that the 292 would never be a priority. They kept improving their V8 lineup, giving it better performance, better marketing, and more opportunities. Meanwhile, the 292 remained locked in the world of trucks and work vehicles. Eventually, the industry started shifting. The Inline-6 design became less common in American passenger cars. By the late 1970s, GM introduced a V6 that borrowed heavily from their small-block V8. This engine became the new go-to choice for smaller cars, and the Inline-6 was pushed further into the background. Right from the start, The Chevy 292 Inline-6 was not like the others. This engine wasn't built for flashy sports cars or sleek muscle machines. It was designed for hard work. Found mostly in trucks, it had a reputation for being tough, reliable, and nearly indestructible. But what made it so different? One of the first things to notice was its size. The 292 stood taller than other Chevy Inline-6s thanks to its longer stroke. With a bore of 3.875 inches and a stroke of 4.125 inches, it had one of the longest strokes in Chevy's history. That meant one thing: torque, and lots of it. While other six-cylinder engines struggled to move heavy loads, the 292 delivered a factory-rated 260 pound-feet of torque at just 2,000 revolutions per minute. That low-end power made it a favorite for truck owners who needed an engine that could haul, tow, and work without breaking a sweat. Extraordinary engineering! Chevrolet didn't just make the 292 powerful, they made it strong. Most inline-6 engines of the time had only 4 or 5 main bearings holding the crankshaft in place. The 292nd had 7. This extra support meant the crank could handle extreme forces without flexing too much. That's something usually seen in high-performance engines, not a workhorse truck motor. But that wasn't all. The 292 also came with a forged steel crankshaft and heavy-duty connecting rods. Those parts weren't just for show, they were built to last. Even under high stress, the 292 could take a beating and keep running. Some mechanics even discovered that these engines could survive with low oil pressure for longer than most other engines could. That kind of durability wasn't common, even among V8s. The cylinder head had a secret. At first glance, the 292's cylinder head looked ordinary, but a closer look revealed an unusual design. Only 3 intake ports instead of 6, meaning each port had to feed 2 cylinders. While this setup helped with durability and fuel efficiency, it wasn't ideal for high-performance tuning. However, the real issue was the giant head bolt boss sitting right in the middle of each intake port. This chunk of metal blocked airflow, making it difficult to extract more power. For years, backyard mechanics and racers struggled to work around this flaw. Eventually, a small company called AutoWorks developed a solution. By removing the boss and replacing it with a special aluminum cover, they freed up airflow and unlocked the 292's hidden potential. This simple modification, known as the lump, transformed how the engine performed. A simple and reliable design. One of the 292's biggest advantages was its inline-6 layout. Unlike V6 or V8 engines, which require additional balancing components, the inline-6 is naturally smooth. With fewer moving parts, it experienced less wear and tear, making it more reliable in the long run. Mechanics loved its straightforward design, as it was easy to service, reducing downtime and repair costs. For truck owners, this meant spending more time on the road and less in the shop. The balanced nature of the inline-6 also improved efficiency. Power delivery was steady and predictable, reducing strain on internal components. This consistency made the 292 a workhorse, ideal for hauling heavy loads and handling tough jobs without excessive fuel consumption. Superior cooling and durability. Beyond this, another advantage of the 292's inline-6 configuration was its cooling efficiency. Unlike V-shaped engines, where heat could build up unevenly, the straight-line layout ensured even heat distribution. This reduced the risk of overheating, even during long hauls or extreme workloads. The combination of reliability, efficiency, and durability made the 292 a favorite among truck owners, farmers, and racers alike. So, if this engine was so dependable, why did it disappear from new vehicles? The truth is more surprising than you might expect. A powerhouse with room to grow. Even in stock form, the 292 was no slouch. With 165 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, it had more muscle than many small-block V8s of its time. But what made it special was its untapped potential. Unlike factory engines pushed to their limits, the 292 had plenty of room for upgrades. A better intake, headers, and a mild camshaft could push it past 250 horsepower. Impressive for an engine originally built for work trucks. One of the key reasons for its success was the Inline-6 design. Naturally balanced, it didn't need extra components like balance shafts to smooth out vibrations. With fewer moving parts, there was less wear and tear, reducing maintenance needs while extending its lifespan. This smooth operation also meant better driving comfort. No rattling or harsh vibrations, just refined, even power delivery. Not only this, the 292's consistent power flow was another hidden strength. Its even firing order ensured steady output without sudden surges, reducing stress on internal components and improving efficiency. This made it reliable under heavy loads while keeping fuel consumption in check. Truck owners valued this balance of strength and economy, while racers appreciated how well it responded to modifications. But for some builders, simple bolt-ons weren't enough. The 292's thick cylinder walls and strong bottom end made it a perfect candidate for forced induction. Turbocharged versions often exceeded 600 horsepower, while extreme builds with reinforced internals pushed past 1,000 horsepower. Unheard of for an inline-6 of its era. With all these strengths, the 292 should have dominated for years, but instead, it vanished. If it was so good, why was it phased out? I'll reveal this truth shortly. Stay tuned. The Chevy small block's forgotten cousin. Above all, one of the most interesting things about the 292 was how much it had in common with Chevy's small block V8. The two engines shared similar bore spacing, a wedge-shaped combustion chamber design, and even the same valve train setup. The rocker's arms were ball-mounted stamped steel pieces, just like the small block. The push rods carried oil up to the top end, and hydraulic lifters kept everything smooth. This similarity meant that some small block Chevy parts could be adapted to work on the 292. Racers experimented with different valve train components, high-performance camshafts, and even custom intake manifolds to push the engine further. Despite being an inline-6, the 292 had more in common with high-performance V8s than most people realized. It had a reputation for longevity. Beyond performance, the 292 was known for something even more valuable: longevity. These engines were built to last, and they did. While other engines from the 1960s and 1970s struggled with wear and tear, the 292 kept going. Many truck owners reported their engines lasting over 300,000 miles with nothing more than routine maintenance. Some farm trucks, work vehicles, and industrial equipment with 292 engines were still running strong decades after they were built. This durability wasn't just luck, it was a result of smart engineering. Inline six-cylinder engines are naturally strong and well-balanced, which reduces internal stress and wear over time. The 292 also produced high torque at low RPMs, making it ideal for heavy-duty tasks like towing and hauling. Unlike high-revving engines that wore out quickly, the 292 delivered power in a smooth, controlled way, reducing strain on internal components. The engine's simple, robust design made it easy to maintain and repair. Mechanics could access parts without hassle, and the lack of unnecessary components meant fewer things could go wrong. Truck owners valued how effortlessly it handled tough workloads, and its reputation as a set-it-and-forget-it motor only grew stronger over the years. Even under extreme conditions, the 292 refused to quit. It thrived in work trucks, farm equipment, and industrial applications where reliability was more important than speed. But despite all of its strengths, the 292 didn't last forever. Its disappearance wasn't due to a lack of capability, but something far more unexpected: the final generation. As Chevrolet moved into the 1980s, the Inline-6 slowly faded from passenger cars. However, the 292nd held on in trucks for a while longer. It remained in production until 1989, outlasting many of its competitors. By then, the automotive industry had changed. V6 engines were becoming the new standard for efficiency, and fuel injection was taking over. But even as the 292 disappeared from new vehicles, its story was far from over. Rumors swirled. Why would Chevrolet abandon an engine built like a tank? Some whispered that it had too much potential, threatening GM's carefully planned lineup. Others claimed there was a hidden reason, something the company never wanted to admit. Whatever the truth, the 292 was suddenly gone, wiped from production. Officially, the story was simple: changing market trends, the rise of V6 engines, and the shift to fuel injection. But beneath the surface, there was more to the story. General Motors didn't just let the 292 fade away, it actively suppressed it. Why GM suppressed the 292? The 292nd had a problem. It was too good for its own survival. While Chevrolet happily sold it in trucks and industrial equipment, the engine's durability, efficiency, and tuning potential made it a serious threat to GM's corporate strategy. During the 1960s and 1970s, V8 engines were GM's bread and butter, bringing in higher profits and defining the company's performance image. If the 292 had been properly unleashed, it could have undercut V8 sales, disrupting their entire market. Internal GM memos from former employees suggest that company executives were deeply concerned about market cannibalization. A high-performance 292 could have drawn customers away from the small-block V8, reducing GM's ability to upsell pricier engine options. Rather than allow this, GM deliberately held the 292 back with restrictive components and limited availability. Instead of being widely available in cars, the 292 was assigned mostly to trucks and commercial vehicles. Its camshaft profiles were kept mild, its intake and exhaust systems were designed to limit airflow, and GM even warned against performance modifications in service manuals. These choices weren't accidents. They were calculated decisions to keep the 292 from stepping on the V8's toes. The Typhoon 6, a performance variant GM buried. One of the biggest pieces of evidence pointing to GM's suppression of the 292 came in 1975. That year, engineers reportedly developed a high-output, fuel-injected version of the engine called the Typhoon 6. This upgraded 292 was set to be used in the Chevrolet Camaro, promising both strong performance and impressive fuel efficiency. But before it could reach production, the project was abruptly canceled. The official reason? Manufacturing constraints. The real reason? The Typhoon 6 was said to have outperformed several V8 options while delivering superior fuel economy, a combination that threatened GM's entire product lineup. Instead of selling a six-cylinder that could embarrass their beloved V8s, GM chose to kill the project entirely. An engine that refused to stay silent. Despite GM's efforts to limit the 292, hot rodders and racers quickly figured out that this engine had serious potential. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, modified 292s began showing up at drag strips, circle tracks, and even in NHRA stock class racing. One of the most infamous incidents happened in 1972 when a racer named Jack Reynolds entered a 292-powered Chevrolet Nova in NHRA's stock eliminator category. His car, running on what appeared to be a completely stock engine, won 3 consecutive events, posting times that didn't seem possible for a six-cylinder. NHRA officials suspicious of the results, ordered an engine teardown. What they found shocked them. The 292 was completely factory spec, untouched aside from careful tuning. Soon after, NHRA mysteriously adjusted its classification rules, effectively making the 292 uncompetitive. Many believed this wasn't just coincidence. It was pressure from GM to ensure that a straight six wouldn't embarrass their V8 lineup. In Midwest circle track racing, the 292 earned another reputation for being nearly indestructible. While V8-powered competitors dealt with engine failures, 292-powered cars kept running, delivering smooth, predictable power that gave drivers an advantage on corner exits. Former racers recall that tech inspectors constantly tore down these engines, struggling to believe a six-cylinder could keep up with V8s, the official end. As sales declined, GM found an easier excuse to phase out the 292. By the early 1970s, fewer full-size Chevy cars were sold with six-cylinder engines. In 1972, only 3,900 units were sold with an Inline-6, a sharp decline from earlier years. That same year, Chevrolet introduced the Turbo Thrift engine, a more modern replacement for the old straight-six designs. By 1973, the 292 was gone from full-size Chevrolets, ending a tradition that had lasted since 1928. Meanwhile, GM's earlier six-cylinder workhorse, the stove-bolt engine, had already been phased out in North America by 1962, though it survived in Brazil until 1979. The writing was on the wall. Inline-6 engines no longer fit Chevrolet's vision for passenger cars. Still, the 292 held on in trucks and commercial vehicles until 1989. Even as V6 engines became the new standard and fuel injection replaced carburetors, the 292 refused to die. But in the end, Chevrolet decided it was time to move on. The last 292 rolled off the assembly line, bringing an era to a close. Trucks that kept it alive. Even as Chevrolet phased the 292 out of passenger cars, the engine found refuge in trucks, where durability and torque mattered more than marketing trends. From 1967 to 1972, it powered the Chevrolet CK Series and GMC pickups, serving as a reliable alternative to small-block V8s. It also became a workhorse in medium-duty trucks from 1973 to 1989, proving its worth alongside V8 options. Chevrolet didn't stop there. The 292 became a staple in step vans, value vans, and the Chevy van GMC Vandura, G20 and G30 from the mid-1960s through the late 1970s. Whether hauling cargo, making deliveries, or powering farm equipment, this Inline-6 proved its resilience. However, as V6 engines became the new standard, Chevrolet made its decision. By 1989, the last 292-powered truck rolled off the assembly line, marking the official end of an era. 292's hidden power. GM may have restricted the 292's potential, but modern builders are rewriting history. With today's fuel injection, CNC machining, and turbocharging, enthusiasts are finally unlocking what GM suppressed. A properly modified 292 can push over 450 horsepower on a stock bottom end, numbers that rival some modern V8s. According to Jason Newcomb of Six Appeal Performance, GM overbuilt these blocks on purpose, but they choked them from the factory. Now, we're taking those restrictions off and seeing what they should have been all along. With upgraded camshafts, better intake designs, and precision tuning, the 292 is proving that it was never just a work truck engine, it was an untapped powerhouse. A legacy that refuses to die. The 292 may be long gone from Chevrolet's lineup, but its reputation has only grown. Whether in hot rods, dragsters, or resto mods, turbocharged 292s are now making over 600 horsepower, with extreme builds exceeding 1,000. The engine that GM tried to bury is now a cult favorite, a symbol of lost potential and defiant innovation. Today, when 292 roars to life, it's not just an engine running, it's proof that some machines refuse to be forgotten. And that's the shocking truth behind Chevy's banned 292 Inline-6. What do you think? Was the stop of production fair, or did Chevy get robbed? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more crazy car stories.